Heliot Ramos broke out last season and he's off to a blistering start this year. Is he taking that next leap forward to stardom? And is it time to start thinking about an extension?
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there, where we're on full video if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be answering your questions, so thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions on both Twitter and on YouTube, and I'm glad I was finally able to set that up with YouTube. I know a lot of you have been asking for that for a long time, so I'm glad we got that going. But the first question, there were a lot about Heliot Ramos, but we're going with Hudson's. And some of these, I used like ChatGPT to organize all the questions, since I think it like paraphrases some of them, so it may not be exactly what you wrote, so forgive me. It's lightly edited. Hudson says, can Heliot Ramos become a perennial all-star? Or is this just small sample theater? Is Ramos taking a big second-year leap? And so the first thing that I look at when I look at his season is I'm looking at the numbers, and what do I see? What is the first thing that jumps off the page to me? Games played, 6. We're talking about 6 games. One of the things to watch, like if you go to Fangraphs, and you can kind of check this pretty regularly, is how do the projections change? And eventually, if you keep being awesome, you'll start to see the projections move in real time up. But so far, they've gone up a little bit, but they mostly look like where they were to start the season. And so essentially what anybody does in a 6-game sample is not going to move unless you hit like 12 home runs in 6 games or something crazy like that. It's just not going to move the needle enough to alter the trajectory of your long-term and even present season projections. Over any 6-game period during the season, you'll probably see every player on this team have maybe not a streak like quite exactly like this one for Ramos, but people get hot, people get cold. It's just when it's the first 6 games, it really, really stands out, and it's the only numbers that we see. But, a 6-game cold streak in the middle of the season, you won't notice as much because it'll be blended in with all the other numbers. So the second number that I see is 42.3%. And what is that? His strikeout rate this season. That is very high. The Major League average strikeout rate so far this season is 23.2%. So he's almost double the Major League average strikeout rate. He did strike out 4 times. So again, everything's a small sample. So if he goes without a strikeout today, it'll lower it down to maybe like 30 or even high 20s. It's just everything can move day to day. And that's why I would caution against saying, the question was, can he become a perennial all-star? And I think the answer is yes. And is Ramos taking a big second-year leap? I think the answer is we don't know. We don't know yet. What's encouraging is that, when I look at it, he hasn't drawn a walk. That's another number that stands out. what's encouraging is just he's hitting 269 with a 731 on base, and he's playing good defense. I think that's important. But also the expected numbers are much lower than the actual numbers. That doesn't really pass the eye test for me. It feels like he's earned what he's gotten, but the strikeout rate needs to come down, and it will. But we need to see quite a bit more before we're able to really fully answer, especially the second part of that question. But he's definitely showing that his breakout last season, I mean, you can already kind of say with some confidence that he's probably not going to be a bust at this point, right? I think after what he did last year and then what he's done to start this year, it's not a certainty, but you can probably say that at this point. And so the second question is also about Ramos. It comes from Jen, who says, "You see this?" And she quote tweets Bay Area Bob. A lot of you very familiar with Bay Area Bob. And Bay Area Bob says on Twitter, I'm not sure exactly when Bay Area Bob wrote this, but says, source, outfielder Heliot Ramos and the San Francisco Giants are discussing a long-term contract extension. And so I know there are Bay Area Bob truthers out there, and I know Bay Area Bob himself has listened to me and will hear this. Like, news gets around. Someone's going to tell Bay Area Bob exactly what I say here, and it's going to garner some attention. But truthfully, Bay Area Bob has been wrong before, and Bay Area Bob has been right about some things before. Bay Area Bob famously was correct that Aaron Judge was coming to San Francisco and was going to stay at whatever hotel he stayed at. But that could be explained by knowing someone who works at the hotel. I'm going to get heat for this. I just know it. But there was also, I think, there was some pretty significant stuff that has been incorrect. And so I hadn't seen it, Jen, until you asked. But I think most importantly, this question is about, should the Giants extend Heliot Ramos? It doesn't matter if there's a source saying that they are or not. The question is, do they, should they? And I mean, there are definitely reasons to do it. And under a lot of circumstances, I've said in the past, there's no reason to do it. People wanted to give Yastrzemski an extension, when he, in his first year. And I'm like, you don't need to. He's under team control for 6 years. And by the time his contract is up, he's going to be 35. And also, it's not enough of a sample for Yaz at the time, was what I said, there's just no reason. You got 6 years. You can wait a little bit. But for Ramos, it is a slightly different story in that he will have over 2 years of service time pretty soon, in about 70 days. He'll have over 2 years of service time. And so if he doesn't get sent back down, and he has no more minor league options, and so he's likely not going to get sent down again. You can't. He would have to be DFA'd, and that seems unlikely based on everything I'm saying and based on the performance. Anyway, he would be eligible to reach free agency at the conclusion of the 2028 season. So we've got 2025, 6, 7, and 8. So currently, consider it a 4-year contract, essentially, counting this year. And so there's not necessarily urgency to extend him because you have him for 4 years. But the reason you do it is if you do detect that you may have an all-star caliber player on your hands who's only 25 years old and doesn't turn 26 until September. What you do is you basically offer, in exchange for some extra years of team control, the player gets life-changing guaranteed money. And so you do see these types of extensions at this type of time. It's kind of rare to see extensions during the season, but we've seen a bunch of them in baseball early on this season. It's extension mania right now. And so we will answer fully, like, if the Giants should extend Heliot Ramos and what it would take. We'll also get into Willy Adames and his slow start, and is there any reason for concern? And Jung Hoo Lee, is he really the best fit for batting third? All of that coming up in just a minute, and before we get into it, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supply House, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I personally love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk, which frankly I just won't put in my body, and I don't have to worry about that with Just Ingredients. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. All right, here we go. We're going to get to more questions and answers. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers on Monday, we will be breaking down the home opener and this home opening series against the Seattle Mariners. 3 games to talk about. Can the Giants stay red hot? 5-1 start. Be a huge thing to be able to win this series. You're at home. Like, that's what good teams do, is they win series. You know, they just win series. You're not going to sweep every series, but, you know, winning 2 out of 3 would make them 7-2, and that would be a very nice start to the season. Hopefully they sweep, obviously, but we shall see, and we'll be breaking it down on Monday. So continuing with the Heliot Ramos conversation about whether or not they should extend him, like, is now the right time? It's an interesting time. I think you could probably wait until like after the season, because he would still have 3 more years to go under team control, and you could argue that that's like the prime time to do extensions, because he would just be like he'll come in under 3 years of service time, and so he won't be arbitration eligible even. So he would still be eligible just to make the league minimum salary in 2026, and so he would still be in a position where offering him life-changing guaranteed money would be very intriguing. And what you get in exchange is, like I said, you get to tack on some extra years, but not the thing about when a player reaches free agency for him after 2028. So he's 25 now. I've done this exercise before. We just have to look at the year, and that's his age until September. But so after the 2028 season, he will have just turned he'll have just turned 29. So he would hit free agency at a nice age for him if he continues to perform well. And so that would be cause for him to not want to tack on a few years and instead hit free agency at age like 31 or 32. So maybe now is a good time. And what would it look like? Well, a lot of times I think people fail to understand that when you extend a player who's still like pre-arbitration, the contract doesn't look like a free agent contract. That's why they're cheaper than free agent contracts, because he's not eligible to make money really until arbitration a couple years from now, and even then it's suppressed, and then there's another year of arbitration, it continues to be suppressed, but you get a little more, and then another year of arbitration, it's still suppressed, but you get a little more, and then free agency, and then you get true market value because there's competition from all 30 teams vying for your services. So I don't know exactly what an extension would look like, but it would probably add a couple years. So it would be like, it would probably start in 2026, and instead of him being under team control for 3 more years, it would be like 5 or 6. So it'd be like a 5 to 6 year extension, and I don't necessarily want to work out exactly what the numbers would look like, but I don't know, like just off the top of my head, like $80 million or something like that. And to me, it's kind of like maybe you want to wait a little bit and see if, this strikeout rate and this walk rate and these expected numbers, like it's only been 6 games. And so I'm not ready to sign on the dotted line just yet, but it's certainly something to think about. All right, so shifting gears, we're going to talk about a player who did cash in and hit free agency at age 29, Willy Adames, and then made $182 million. This is exactly what I'm saying. When you reach free agency at a good age and you're a good player, you get paid. And Willy Adames, Giants paid him, and he's off to a slow start. So Miggs says, when will Willy Adames finally start contributing offensively? Somebody else worded it a little differently elsewhere, and I had it written down, but I seem to have temporarily lost it. I don't know why I'm here is, will Willy Adames turn things around, or is he looking like a potential bust? From Charlie on, I think, YouTube. So yeah, same answer, but in reverse, in that what do I look at first? Games. 6. There's absolutely no reason to look at the 6 games he's played this year versus the 880 that he played previously in his career and say, you know what? Those 6 games mean a heck of a lot more than those 880 games that he played before that. You weight the 6 games a little bit more than like the last 6 games of last year, because more recent performance does matter more by some amount. But it's not 100% weight on this year, no matter how small the sample. And that's not what you were implying. It's just I would never worry about a player after 6 games, like no matter who they are. And one thing that I'm looking at here is the defense on Fangraphs. They've got him at -2. Defensive runs saved has him at -2. Outs above average has him at -1. That's not what I've seen. I mean, there was one play where he kind of failed to get an out with Elly De La Cruz like bearing down on second base, but I don't know, it was a good play just to get to that ball. So I haven't seen anything negative defensively from Adames. But at the plate, I mean, we talk about, he's striking out too much. Well, he struck out a lot less than Heliot Ramos, but he's just not done the damage. He's hitting 130, 192 on base, 174 slugging. It's a weighted runs created plus of 9. The lowest he's had in his career was 94, and that means 6% below average offense. That's the worst he's been in his career. The highest he's been was the 2020 season, so I'm going to not count that, and say in 2021 it was 120. So always between about average to about 20% above average. And that's right where the projections have him is about 10% above average offensively. So the reason he's like a star or like borderline star player is because, I mean, the personality goes a long way. The energy he brings goes a long way and matters, as we discussed yesterday. But also that he plays a premium position and hits at an above average level, and plays every day, durable, stole 21 bases, hit 32 home runs. Buster Posey said he values the RBI, which is, controversial in this day and age, but he has a knack for driving in runs, or at least he has. We'll see how that holds up. But anyway, I'm just not worried after 6 games. And the thing is, when it's this early in the season, you can literally go from way below average to like above average in one game. So if he comes out here today in the home opener and hits like a single, a double, and 2 homers or something, he'll suddenly have above average offensive numbers. So that's why you just cannot, because at a certain point, months into the season, you may do that and your numbers don't change much. And so we're not even close to that point yet. And so no, he's not looking like a bust based on 6 games, 26 plate appearances. I fully expect he's going to just have a normal Willy Adames year. Maybe it could be a slight down year. I don't know. Matt Chapman had a really slow start last season. And when I'm talking about a slow start, we can even talk about a month and a half even of guys struggling and then getting hot. So certainly not a week or 6 games for Adames. I'm not worried at all. And just give it time and he will Adames. Willy Adames will Willy Adames. So the next question comes from Jonathan, who asks, where's the question? Where did it go? How long will the Giants stick with Jung Hoo Lee batting third? Is his lack of power a long-term issue? So we will answer that question and more in just a minute, and before we do. Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the smell of the garlic fries. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as game time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal no matter what. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the Giants are now home for this opening homestand, I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. I recently grabbed last-minute tickets to the exhibition game against the Tigers, and Game Time had unbeatable prices, which meant more money for food and merch or just to keep in my pocket. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, here we go. We're going to get to some more questions and supply some more answers. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers on Monday, breaking down this series against the Seattle Mariners. Giants are back home for the first time, and Justin Verlander on the mound today, and then Robbie Ray, and then Jordan Hicks. That's what it is lined up to be. And it is a 3-game series, and then we'll see the Reds again. And then off day, and then they head to New York and Philadelphia and Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Anyway, next question comes from Jonathan, like I said, who says, how long will the Giants stick with Jung Hoo Lee batting third? Is his lack of power a long-term issue? And, well, first of all, they've been doing very well offensively when you look at the run scoring. I get it. If you look at overall offensive numbers, they're actually like the rate statistics, like batting average, on base, slugging. The numbers are not great offensively. They're not terrible, but they're not great. But 5 runs a game will work. And Jung Hoo Lee, I keep making this point, so I'm guessing you haven't heard me make this point, but run creation, that's why this metric that I cite all the time, a lot of people just call it WRC plus, but I like to say it out, weighted runs created plus. It, basically, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of the metric itself, but getting on base contributes to run scoring, because if somebody gets an extra base hit or something behind you, it really matters that you are on base when it comes to having a run score. It's a team effort. Scoring a run is, I don't want to say just as important, because I don't know exactly how you weight it all out, but like driving in a run obviously matters, but so does being the guy on base that scored, because you had to get on. And then if you got an extra base hit yourself, you made yourself more likely to score, or you drove someone in. So there's, and like walking is a form of run production. So anyway, Jung Hoo Lee, again, it's 5 games, small sample for everyone, but he's hitting .278. He's got a .381 on base, a .444 slugging, a .362 weighted on base, a .385 expected weighted on base, which means he's underperformed. These are all really good numbers, but he's even underperformed the expected numbers. And he's been about 40% above average offensively by this weighted runs created plus metric, which implies 40%, 38% above average at like run creation. So hitting him third, I see no problem at all with that. And your question about is his lack of, what do you say exactly? Is his lack of power a long-term issue? So when you say lack of power, I'm guessing you're pointing to no home runs and just 2 home runs last year, 42 games in the major leagues, 2 home runs, RBIs, 10, like that kind of stuff. But this year, again, it's going to be a small sample, but he's got 5 hits and 3 of them are doubles, for example. And I recall some rockets that he's hit that could have been extra base hits and weren't. So I'm not sure that there's a huge lack of power there. And also, I'm of the mind that run creation comes in multiple forms. And if you have Matt Chapman and Heliot Ramos, who certainly have 20 and perhaps 30 home run power hitting behind you, getting on base, being on second, whatever it is, and then you've got guys on base in front of you, and then you're getting hits at a high rate because Jung Hoo Lee figures to hit for a high batting average because he doesn't strike out a lot at all. And yeah, like I just see there being no issue at all with Jung Hoo Lee hitting third to me. So, but also that's an isolated power for him, by the way, this season of 167, Jung Hoo Lee, and isolated power is slugging minus batting average. It isolates the power part out of batting average, because if you have a 400 average and a 400 slugging, that means you hit nothing but singles. And so when you subtract average out of slugging, it is a measure of extra base power. And the league average isolated power this season in the major leagues is 156. And Jung Hoo Lee is at 167. So he's so far hit for above average power. That's what I would use to evaluate power versus like home run totals. It's really about extra bases for me. And so far he's been above average at extra base hits. I don't know that I would expect that to continue, but I'm just saying it's not like it's been an issue so far this year. So, all right, the next question comes from Aaron, who says, what is Jerar Encarnacion's role if Wilmer Flores keeps crushing? Could Jerar get playing time in the outfield? So there were several questions along this line asking about how does Jerar Encarnacion fit in with Wilmer Flores hitting the ball well. So there's multiple things to say here. Number one, I feel like I'm, what's the term? I forget the term. I woke up a little bit too early this morning, but it's a broken record. I feel like a broken record. It's only been 6 games, so I would not assume that Wilmer Flores is definitely having a monster season. You know what I mean? So like and the other thing is, not that I don't believe in Wilmer. I've been defending him this whole time, all off season. When people wanted him gone, I was like, what are you talking about? He was not healthy last year. It was one down year. But speaking of health, I mean, guys get injured. The thing is, these things have a way of working themselves out. And we're talking about 8 weeks of return to play for Jerar Encarnación. So the Giants have 8 weeks to figure that out, and a lot more will be revealed in 8 weeks, including the health of the roster, like who is healthy and who is not healthy on the roster currently. So by the time Encarnación is ready to return, there's probably some kind of obvious solution, or maybe you just really need him because maybe you're banged up or whatever the case is. And it could be different positions. It could be first base gets banged up and Flores is at first and you need a DH. Or it could be that Flores is banged up and you need a DH and Wade's playing for, I don't know. It could just be all kinds of different scenarios. Or the outfield is messed up and you've tried young players and they've failed. And then you want to try Jerar Encarnación in the outfield. But if everybody's humming along and there's no room for him, then it may force you to make a trade or something. But baseball doesn't usually work that way. Guys get hurt, guys underperform. Like there's probably going to be a need for or an opportunity for him when he's healthy. And the simple answer would have been he could just be optioned, but he can't because he's out of minor league options. So when he's healthy, they're going to have to add him to the roster or else trade him or DFA him. And I don't think they want to do that. So I just think it's just not worth really dwelling on 2 months ahead of when he's scheduled to return. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, on Monday, we will be breaking down the home opening series against the Seattle Mariners. Hopefully the Giants able to take at least 2 out of 3 at home here. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again on Monday. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.